Hi everybody, welcome back, and if this is your first time, welcome. My name's Max Haddad, and today we are going to talk about microdosing. This topic was suggested by eThreat, which is probably not this person's birth name, but it's the name that I have. I appreciate the comment, eThreat. Thank you so much. This was something really good to think about. I knew about it, but I hadn't thought about it in a long time. Before we get started, I want to say quickly, you guys have given me so many awesome ideas. You've asked questions and I've made videos about them. You've said, oh, try this challenge, and I've said, I'll do it. You've said, what do you think about this? Or here's this video. Can you comment on it? That kind of thing. I will get to every single one. I am so grateful. And by the way, you might hear my dog chewing a rawhide in the back. Sorry about that. Not really sorry. I'm so grateful for all the suggestions, all the questions, everything, all the, hey, look at this videos that you guys have sent me, asked me on Twitter at MaxODad, all that. So I want to let you know that if you suggested something, I haven't gotten to it yet. I promise you that I have it in a file on my computer where I put all that stuff, all video ideas that you guys send me, and I will do something with it. Promise, promise, promise. So this video is about microdosing. Enjoy. For those that don't know, microdosing is when someone takes a small dose of typically a hallucinogenic drug or ecstasy. Usually it's referring to a small dose of either LSD or a small dose of mushrooms every day for a certain period of time. And I'm talking a really, really small dose. So let's say, I'm going to throw out arbitrary numbers here just to make an example. Let's say that an active dose of psilocybin mushrooms, the mushrooms that you can hallucinate on, active dose meaning you'll get the desired effect. You'll get weird and visuals, and your mood's crazy and your perspective changes, all that. Let's say that happens at 100 micrograms or whatever. If somebody's microdosing, they're going to take substantially less than the active dose. They're going to take 5 micrograms, that kind of thing, every single day. In most cases, way less than you'll take way less than to even feel, you'll need to even feel an effect. The thought behind it is, and there is some science behind this, the thought behind it is these drugs, these hallucinogenic drugs, have shown results when used on soldiers with PTSD. Sometimes in a relationship between couples with a therapist, they'll take these in a clinical setting and it helps them bond. If they're like, hey, we really don't want to get a divorce. We know we love each other, but we're stuck somehow. How can we process this? In very rare cases, when it's being studied and watched over, people will do that. So there is some science behind saying that it does help people get over trauma. It does help people feel empathy and compassion and connect with others. But the cases in which it is a good choice are slim, right? There's not a lot of instances where mushrooms are a better choice than going to group therapy or couples therapy. Or just individual therapy if you're a veteran and you've got some shell shock. I don't like to call it PTSD. It feels like we're doing soldiers a disservice by euphemizing it. So you take a small dose if you're microdosing every day in hopes that you will garner some of the benefits that these people that have taken larger doses in clinical settings have gotten. There's also some science here that it works. I've met a few people that were microdosing mushrooms. I've only heard of people doing it with acid. I had a boss when I worked at a restaurant who was attempting to microdose mushrooms every day. Anecdotally, personally, I have not seen good results from this. To be honest with you, didn't seem any different. It just seemed like an expenditure that he didn't need. He was constantly complaining that he didn't have enough money. That life was tough, whatever. And it didn't seem like mushrooms were the solution. It seemed like he had some serious financial worries, some serious problems. And there's no amount of chemical you can take to make real problems go away. Okay, now when I say real problems, I mean you're in the red. You don't have enough money. You have an impending surgery for a terrible illness and you have to get this surgery. Like, there's not a chemical that can fix stuff like that. Yes, there might be a chemical that can help people bond, when it's, they're being guided by a therapist. But when you've got an external problem, or I guess an internal problem that needs physical work done on it, you need to pay somebody, you need to get something removed or something added into your body in surgery. It doesn't matter what you do. You can really only, I guess you can come to accept something. Maybe that's the ideal outcome, is that microdosing would help you accept that this is reality, that this is something that you need to deal with. But that's not what it's intended to do. Sometimes it does help people. Mushrooms have been shown to help people that are on the brink of death. People that are not necessarily in their deathbed, but they know they've got a year left to live. A guided mushroom experience with an informed, academically with a person with a degree. They're an actual psychologist that has studied this. They're not just somebody like, don't worry, dude, I tripped 8 times in college, I can help you deal with death. That's not what I'm talking about. People that have gone to school for this thing. It has shown, there's evidence to suggest that those people that are nearing the end of their life have benefited from a spiritual experience, a good sized dose of mushrooms, and they can better accept that their life, as at least we can know it, is ending. That's not microdosing. So microdosing is not gonna touch that. It's just not. People that have shown the biggest benefits from this are people that are taking moderate doses, enough to have an effective, pretty, what am I trying to say? I'm distracted by my dog. An experience. They're having a real spiritual experience because they are high on some psilocybin. That's what I'm trying to say. In my opinion, microdosing is, I hate to say the word lazy because that's not quite what I mean, but I'm going to say it's a lazy person's way to a spiritual truth. And a lot of times spiritual truths aren't as easy as, boop, done, I'm there. It takes a lot of work, a lot of pain, a lot of going forward, going backward, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But it's not necessarily because people are lazy. We want to feel better. We want to discover more about ourselves, to understand what is the meaning of life, stuff like that. So it's not necessarily lazy. It's just misguided. In the example that I gave you of my boss, it's like I wanted to grab him and shake him and be like, dude, you got some real problems. You've got employees working for you that don't give a shit whether you're successful or not. You're walking around complaining about money. Last week you went on a trip to Fiji. Like, there's stuff going on that microdosing is not going to solve. And he's not a lazy person. My ex-boss, we broke up, was not a lazy person, but I felt that it was misguided. I think I can totally understand how, if somebody has been putting in work at, the therapist's office, has been trying to exercise, has been dieting, they've been trying stuff, and they feel like they're not progressing as quick as they would like to. I could understand somebody getting frustrated and wanting to quit. I mean, I've done it in the past, sort of. I thought I was working on getting better, and then I would relapse because I couldn't handle it anymore. It's more complicated than that, but basically what I'm saying is I don't feel comfortable writing off microdosing, okay? And I've said before, I'm not a prohibitionist. I'm not saying that weed and all that is bad for everybody. I mean, if there was scientific evidence, and I'm talking studies done, not just some dude that you lived with for 6 months telling you like pot helped him with his cataracts. I'm saying like real evidence to suggest that weed helps somebody, or a glass of red wine every week helps your heart. Like, I'm totally for it. And I'm not even against people using drugs recreationally. I'm not totally sure how I feel about people getting fucked up, but if it's helping, and it's really helping, like I don't trust, okay, if you tell me you're microdosing and you're like, yeah, it's really helping me, I don't trust your opinion. I basically don't trust people's opinions about how they're doing. If last week they were in an emotional crisis and this week they're on top of the world, I need somebody close to them, or somebody who's pretty well informed, again, a therapist, like to tell me what's going on, because when I was screwed up, when I was using actively or when I was barely sober and I was telling people, yeah, I'm fine, like stuff's all the way better, I got it figured out now, it won't happen again, I was wrong. And I wasn't trying to lie to people. I was totally delusional because I wanted stuff to be better. I wanted to be happy. I didn't want to relapse. I didn't want to disappoint everyone around me again. So my brain, cognitive dissonance, it's like we can either admit that life is screwed up and it's going to be a lot harder to solve than we thought, or we can, convince ourselves that like stuff is okay and we got it and it's going to be fine. It's a lot less painful in the short term to just trick yourself into thinking stuff's okay. And that happens with a lot of different areas. I don't need to go into that. Okay, so if microdosing is working, awesome. But I have not seen it work with anyone. I have seen it make people think they're feeling better, maybe even feel better, but I have never seen it solve the problems that they started microdosing to solve. The problems have always come back. The psychological ruts have not been, bested. And I think the strongest opinion I have about this, more than I think, I'm not willing to write it off, the strongest opinion I have about it is someone heard that there is benefit when a soldier with severe trauma takes MDMA, that's ecstasy, in a setting with a therapist. They begin to be able to open up and trust other people and communicate. Somebody heard that and they're like, oh, I'll just take a little bit of shrooms every day and I'll have that experience. I think that there's some information being tossed around that it's tough to verify, and I don't think its origin is indicative of what it's become. Just because I've had a bad experience with certain chemicals and they've got me into legal trouble or, health trouble or whatever, doesn't mean it can't be a solution. It can't be an actual medical solution to a health problem, mental or physical. But I struggle to imagine a situation where someone who has no training in psychology or with dosing somebody on any chemical can just buy mushrooms from a dealer and then pull off a piece and be like, I guess that's right. And when it comes to mushrooms too, like you can weigh it on a scale, right? You can say, okay, this weighs that much, but you don't know how active those mushrooms are. You can buy mushrooms and eat all of them and nothing happens. When I was of college age, I bought some golden cap mushrooms and the stems were blue. And typically if you bruise one of these mushrooms and it's blue, there's psilocybin's magic. But, and I ate one and I lost my mind and I hated it. You don't know how active these are. So what's your plan? Who's telling you what's in this? You can't just pull off a piece, eat it and say, I'm microdosing. That's not how any of this works. Just like I can't go to the therapist's office, sit with my arms crossed for an hour and say, I'm going to therapy. I'm on my way to getting better. It's just not how it works. It's not, God, I wanted a silver bullet for this addiction, my mental health problems, depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever I've got. I wanted solutions that were easy because God damn it, I wanted to feel better, but they're just not. Life is complicated. It's not that easy. Life can be wonderful, okay? But it's typically not wonderful as a result of all better. That's just not life. It's not reality. So I think people want a quick solution. They want to feel better. And it's just a long-term solution, a permanent, consistent solution. It takes a village, I'm not where I am today because a couple good decisions I made in prison. I'm here because of my therapist and group therapy and the people at work release and some people I met in prison and some decisions I made in prison and my wonderful family and some awful mistakes I made. There's just so many people involved in me being where I am today. It's just not as simple as this isolated act of taking a little bit of mushrooms every day for a month. How is your success even being measured? you know? And I think it's important to say, too, that psilocybin, when you get high on that, it's your body's reaction to a poison. It is. You are having a reaction, the poisonous reaction in your body, or rather the reaction that your body has to the poison as it processes it out, causes hallucinations. All right. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying like you take Ipecac to throw up when you've eaten something you shouldn't. So like there are stuff, there's things you can take that are, like damaging to the body, but they're actually helpful. So I'm not saying that's like, write it off. It's poison. But this is not something to be trifled with. And just like, whistling in the dark to keep yourself, to comfort yourself while you're scared. That's what this feels like to me. When people without guidance are taking small doses of LSD, mushrooms, ecstasy, whatever, on the hope that it's going to make their life better. It's like, covering your ears and closing your eyes and blah, 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 blah. I don't hear anything. I don't see, there's no problems, blah, 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 blah. That's what it's like, in my opinion. But, like I said, it's not what I think. There's real evidence. So it's not an opinion. It's not up to me to decide whether a fact is a fact or not. It is or it isn't. And there are multiple studies suggesting that this can be helpful to people. But there's like a 99.999% chance you're not one of those people. And if I had to bet money, I'd bet there's a 0% chance that you're going to have the intended effect if you just do it on your own. Ecstasy depletes the brain of important chemicals and feeling happy, right? Which is why you do it once in a guided setting. Psilocybin is poison. LSD, y'all. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. Hi. Woohoo! So be careful. And I'm not saying somebody should, after I've said all this, if you think I'm telling you, go try it, you weren't listening. But if you know a counselor that went to school, they're not, they didn't just write counselor on a card and hand it to you, and you think that this will be beneficial to you, then I'm all for it. As much as I don't trust people when they tell me that they're better, I do trust your judgment on your own life. And that's 50% because I know unless you and me are on the same team and helping you get better, there's not going to be any progress. And because the other 50%, if you're not on board for something, no. The other 50% is you know best. You know best. When I say I don't trust people, it's because I do trust people. When I say I don't trust someone who was in a crisis last week and this week, they're acting like everything's perfect, is because of how easy it is for our brains to trick us in an attempt to protect us. But as far as what you need, what you think you should try, I trust your judgment on your own life. I do. And who am I anyways? So I'll just fuck off. You guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again, E-Threat. This was something great to think about. This is one of those where there's going to be stuff I wish I had said and I forgot to say. And I'm blaming my dog for chewing this rawhide the whole time I was recording this. Not really. Love her. Take care. Bye.